Africa. It's African winter, by the way. It's African winter. So I know it takes a lot for you to wake up and just to attend this meeting. We do not take it for granted. So without further ado, I am going to welcome Dr. Lucita, who's going to introduce PowerMonday, and then she is going to give us the poem of the week. Dr. Lucita.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Noel. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning from the beautiful county of ours and our amazing country, Kenya. So what are we? We are the powerhouse. We are Power Monday. We demystify the fact that Mondays are boring days. It doesn't matter whether your weekend was short or long, but we are here. We meet virtually every single Monday except when it is a public holiday in Kenya. And not only do we meet virtually, but we meet physically at what we term as meet and greet. And our itinerary is well arranged in the group. Please don't miss it out and don't skip. Our last bit of meet and greet is at dinner. And oh my, this year, we are reviving the vibe at 6 years. Amazing it has been. We discuss diverse topics. We do personal development. And who knows, this could be a life-changing moment. And the sessions are absolutely free. And today I am going to delve directly into the poem that I titled, What Life Taught Me That I Think School Missed. What life taught me, what life taught me, but school missed. They taught me how to read, but not how to understand the silence. They taught me how to write essays, but not how to rewrite my story when my life breaks. They gave me formulas arranged neatly. They told me that X is always found from the Y, but they didn't tell me. But Y is actually a person that I didn't know. And they didn't tell me that Y is actually not the answer. Neither was X. They didn't tell me that X is an actual person and X is a grave. X is love that lives. X is the question you ask yourself at 2 a.m. You want to wake up and scream, but you can't scream because you are a whole human who has human beings that depend on you. They taught me history, they taught me deaths, wars, victories, but not how to forgive my own past, how to unlearn the pain that feels inherited. They say that failure is not an option, so I feared it. I avoided it. I ran with it like it carried my name in its mouth. But life sat me down, it looked me directly in the eye and said, sit, failure is a teacher too. They graded me on the heartbreaks, but they never told me that heartbreaks have no actual grades. It has no exams, and disappointments have no pass marks, no assignments there. When your strength feels like it is resigned without notice, but life handed me test with no warning, an open book, but the book was me. I am the book. They taught me to compete, be the best, outshine, outdo, outrun, but life says sometimes survival is the victory. Sometimes breathing is just enough, and suddenly it wasn't a race, it was a journey. They taught me to speak up, to raise my hand, to have the right answer, but life taught me that pace sounds like walking away. Strength looks like silence. They never mentioned healing. They never told me it is not linear. And some days you bloom and others you barely survive. They didn't teach me boundaries. They didn't teach me how to say that no is a full sentence. It is not selfish to say no. They didn't teach me that people change, that love can be real and still not be forever. They didn't teach me those things in school. That life prepared me for a living, and maybe that's the lesson. Not everything that matters will be in the curriculum, but some things you learn by breaking, you learn in the waiting, you learn in the becoming. So yeah, I am not just educated, but experienced, still learning, still unlearning, and still growing in the version of me that no classroom could contain. But life is the best teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucita. I have a lot to say about that poem, but I will not go into that because of time. So I call upon Mercy Akoth, who is going to introduce the guest speaker of the day.
Thank you, Noel. Good morning, Power Monday. I'll dive into introducing the speaker of the day, who is none other than Liz Gitonga. Liz Gitonga is one of Kenya's most voiced on homeschooling and education reforms, with a journey that spans for more than 3 decades of teaching, curriculum development, and homeschooling our own children from preschool all the way through to high school. Liz, together with her husband Patrice, were among the first families in Kenya to choose homeschooling, beginning that journey 25 years ago at a time when it was virtually uncharted territories in East Africa. And that experience became the lens through which she came to understand education not as the mere transfer of information, but as a profound shaping of hearts, minds, and ultimately the culture of society. It is a conviction she has both studied and lived that led her to found Veritas Education Africa, an organization dedicated to equipping homeschool families and schools with knowledge, tools, and resources needed for an excellent intentional education. Through Veritas, Liz has become a trusted guide for a growing community of parents who are choosing to take an active role in how their children are formed. Her influence extends well beyond Kenya. Liz serves as the steering committee of both the East Africa Community of Homeschoolers and the Africa Home Education Exchange, and sits on the advisory board of the Global Home Education Exchange. She also serves on the Global Executive Committee of the Third Education Revolution, a movement reshaping how the world thinks about learning. She's a trained teacher with a bachelor degree in education and a master's degree in education psychology from Kenyatta University. Liz brings both academic rigor and practical wisdom to every platform she speaks from. She has addressed audiences nationally and internationally with her favorite topics spanning homeschooling philosophy, education and culture, and the role of parents in shaping the next generation. So Power Monday. And Liz also is blessed with 3 children, now 29, 24, and 20, all of whom were homeschooled from preschool through to high school, a journey that remains her greatest classroom. Let's join hands in welcoming Liz this morning to share a word with us. Karibu sana, Liz.
Thank you very much, Mercy, for the introduction. Thank you very much, Peter Paul, for the invitation. I am very humbled to be speaking to this wonderful team today. I was here, I think, a year ago, and how the team has grown. Actually, I would like to join in a lot more because I can see there is lots of great people here who I'm sure bring in a lot of learning for everybody. And so today it's my turn, and I'm glad that I can share a little bit of what homeschooling is, and especially today looking at it through the lens of the current situation in our country. We are not unaware of the crisis that we are facing, some would say, quote unquote, but I really do think there is a crisis in learning, as we have witnessed in our institutions and in our society. And this is what I would like us to kind of turn our minds to. Not so much, we will not use this session to say why or why not these things are not happening. I think there are many layers to that. It's a very, very, very complicated situations. A lot of people have suffered through this. And on behalf of this team, really, I know I speak for most of us, if not all of us, to extend our condolences to those who have suffered through these gruesome events that have happened in our country. We have seen our secondary schools set alight. We've seen pupils perish. We also know of children who are missing from our streets and from our families, and others who have faced a lot of traumas untold, which actually have kind of been overshadowed by all these other bigger events that are happening. And our hearts go out to you. We know that these are very, very difficult times for many of us. And so when we discuss homeschooling today, I will be looking at homeschooling in the context of what's happening in our country and considering, could this be an option that we ought to consider as parents, as a society, as a country, as a way of ensuring the safety and security of our children and many other underlying benefits that come along with that. But definitely, our entry point today is considering just the safety and security of our country. And I agree with whoever came ahead who, talked of Kenya being a great nation. I know there were 2 or 3 ladies ahead, and sorry, I don't know which one of you who all talked very well talks of Kenya being a great nation. And it is a great nation, and a nation set up for greatness. And our children today are going to shape the culture of our society tomorrow. And I think when we generally think of education, we think of okay, and thank you. I did notice that also, to say that, yes, we do have people here from across other borders, and that had escaped me. So, and thank you for alerting me on that, because I will then frame my conversation also in recognition of the fact that not all of us are going through the same crisis in education in Kenya as in other countries. You may be having a different set of situation, but also this would be a good time to say that homeschooling, we are not talking of it just because this crisis. When we chose to homeschool, we didn't face this kind of situations we are facing today. And so many are coming into this from different perspectives and different persuasion. And I hope that also I'll be able to shed light on that, so that it's not really that we are running away from something. There could be some of that, but we are also running towards something that is beautiful and good and builds our country and builds fundamentally our families, and these children grow up and go and build our countries. So when we all think about education, our own education, you talked of X and Y and things that school did not teach you. And there's a lot you said in that poem of the untold things, the untold skills, values, perspectives that we did not learn in school, some of which we think perhaps we ought to have been told this. I would have been better equipped to face the world if I had learned this. And there's a term we use, we like to say holistic education. And what do we mean by holistic? I'm not sure that when I say holistic and when somebody else says holistic, that we are talking of the same thing. Feel free to use the chat box to kind of pop out some words that come to your mind when you think of the holistic education of children. And when we're thinking of the child, we are thinking of what are some things we think about when we're going to school. I think an obvious one is their academic ability, right? Where we're talking of you want them to have high grades. We want them to be sharp, be intelligent, score highly. So I see words there like 4 facets all round. I wish you'd unpack that a little more. Yeah, we do use those alternatively. All-round education, holistic. What exactly is inside that capsule that we are calling holistic? So there is the cognitive and mental development. I would say that really comes at the forefront of everything, perhaps because that's what we are testing. Yes, somebody says body, mind, and spirit. There is a social development. We want these children to be able to go out and interact with their colleagues, their peers and their family members and their larger society. When we chose to homeschool our children, one of our friends came and told me, "But Liz, why are you doing this? Don't you think that you're disadvantaging your child, that she'll never know how to stand up to bullies because she has not been bullied?" And I thought, that's really sad. I would hate to think that for my child to be able to stand up to bullies, she needs to be bullied. For me to know how to put out a fire, I need to be burnt in a fire. That's not how we've been designed. We've been designed to be able to fortify ourselves. And when we are fortified and equipped for battle, then we can go out into the battlefield. And what we are doing in the process of education is not just the cognitive development, it is the development of the child. It is the equipping of this child that they too will have their turn to go out and serve in the world. You never send the weakest soldiers, the new recruits, you never put them in the front lines in the battle. You let the stronger ones, the more mature ones, the more experienced ones to be at the battlefront, fighting those battles, fighting the bullying or whatever other things that are happening out there. And the younger ones being trained, being mentored, being tutored from back there, and then learning through a mentorship process till they themselves are strong enough to come to the front. So there is also the social development. I see biopsychosocial, spiritual, that's right. There is a big part of the emotional development. Emotionally, aesthetically, growing their mind to think, to appreciate beauty, to express that which is good, that which is beautiful. And we must say here that if we look around, we can say that we do learn from the company we keep. So even as we think of the social development of the child, we are wanting to understand what's the company they are keeping and how is that shaping them. The Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. And, a joke we'd have with my husband is, I wonder what wood does. Iron is sharpening iron. What if both of us are wooden? What are we going to do? Are we going to, that burns very easily, right? And so there is that very important aspect of the social development. And then, of course, there's a spiritual development. We want our children to know God, to love Him, and to know that there is somebody greater than themselves. They are not the ultimate. They're not the say-all. They are a creation. And if they are creation, there is a maker who knows them, who loves them, who desires the best for them, and who would like to guide them every day. And we would like them to grow closer to God, who would love them unconditionally. And I think I'd like to just say something small also about the unconditional love that also parents give their children. And why are we as parents able to give this unconditional love? We're able to give the unconditional love because children are given to parents as a gift to parents, and parents are equipped with all they need to bring and nurture these children. And saying here, children are not given to governments. Governments can support parents to raise their children, but children do not belong to the government. They belong to us as parents. And this becomes very important when we now come into the school realm and ask, why are we taking our children to school? What do we expect when we take our children to school? And before we even get into that, and thanks for the great things that have come up on the chat, I also see talent and creativity, which is all encompassed within that, right? I think one of the other areas we didn't mention, we talked about the physical the cognitive, the values, the social development, the spiritual development. There's also, of course, the physical development. We want these children's muscles to grow. We want them moving around, running around, growing their muscles. We want them well nourished. That's part of their physical development. We want them to have good meals that are growing their bodies, giving them the necessary vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, everything that they will need to grow their bodies. And even as we talk about their physical development, we are talking about their safety and security. We want and desire that they do not have any physical harm coming to them. And so as we think about taking our children to school, our nieces, our nephews, whatever other education, whatever your education context is, and I think the things I have enumerated capture what we are seeing out here, the body, mind, and soul, it captures that their physical development, their cognitive development, their social development, their spiritual development, and their aesthetic development, their values and morals too. And as we're making choices for school, and as I look around Kenya, and probably you can tell me and put on the chat if it's different in your country, and even when we came to the point where we needed to make a choice of school for our budding 3-year-old who was going on to 4 years old, there are various ways that we make these choices. Sometimes it's based on, okay, do I want a private school or a public school? And this is usually the consideration where resources are limited, because public schools are often, very well subsidized by the government, and therefore with the intention of providing access to as many children as possible. And so this becomes a good consideration when we're thinking, that's a school I can afford, I can take my child there. And sometimes also, as used to be, especially 20, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, when we were in primary school, the population was much smaller, there was a public school within reach of every child. And then again, the public schools became very convenient to go to because you can walk to school and, get your education there. So today you'll see choice between public and private. Sometimes it's based on cost. Sometimes it's based on access. Sometimes actually it's based on the reason you take your child to a private school. Maybe the classes are smaller, better attention to each of the children, better meals. We are always looking at which school is doing the best. And even sometimes, despite the fact that a public school may have very many students, we know that they're scoring the best. And so we want our child in those big national schools, because then we know they'll get a good education and they will get a better chance in life, or, that's what we hope. Sometimes it's based on the curriculum. Do I want CBE? Do I want international curriculum? We've said, based on performance, how will they transition from primary to junior high to senior high? And then there's also the big one. We want boarding or day. And very, very many parents believe that when you take your child to a boarding school, they will definitely perform better than when you take your child to a day school. And we know that that's not always the case. I have seen students, including we in earlier years, who went to day schools and actually outdid children who are in boarding schools. So, none of those is really hard and fast, but all those come into play when we are thinking about school. But I think today we have come to a point where, as we think about school, the considerations are even removed from what can I afford, what is going to give me an A, what is going to build the character of my child. All those are important, but what is being forced to us is to think about, where will my child be safe? Are they going to be safe in that institution? Is there going to be unrest in that institution? Can I trust that they will not get caught up in some form of unrest? Now, unrest is just what's happening more recently, but we know other aspects of safety that become a concern. We know things that involve the character, the safety of their character. Are they going to be involved in bad groups that are going to influence them to, addictions that will be harmful to them, or, behaviors that will distract them from the very reason that they have gone to school to study. And so those are becoming very, very important. Will they be safe? And so let me now get into homeschooling and see how does homeschooling help us understand some of this. And as we get into this, I would like you to understand that I think one of my goals today is I would like to demystify homeschooling. I know maybe some of you are well aware of it, some may not be. And I would hope that out of this, we would come out of here knowing that homeschooling is also one of the choices. As we're thinking boarding day, private, public, high cost, low cost, near, far, that we can also think about homeschooling as one of the choices. This has not been put out in the public sphere in the way that it ought to, because, and I say it ought to because we have had and seen great success with children who have been homeschooled in Kenya and beyond Kenya. Many countries, especially in the West, have homeschooled for decades. And so they have a bigger history that they can look at and more data to look at. In Kenya, modern day homeschooling, I would reckon, is just about 30 or so years old or a little less. And it's now that we are beginning to collect the data. These children are now adults and they're in the public sphere. How are they faring? Have they succeeded? Have they been short? Have they come out short because they did not go to school with everybody else? And so I'm here to demystify home education and help you as we consider, is this a way we could choose to educate our children? And I'm not saying that homeschooling is the only way out to get ourselves out of these numerous situations that face us. That's not what I'm saying. And neither am I saying that when you come to homeschooling, it's going to be just a nice, cozy, and, easy ride all the way, to the end. No, it does also come in with its own challenges. It neither is a guarantee for great success, but you know what? It is a way that you have a better and closer oversight on the education of your child. And in more cases than not, you will actually have very good success. It pretty much is like, making your own meal at home and the oil you have used and the ingredients that you've used, as opposed to going to a restaurant, even the best restaurant. Many of us will have good experiences in there. Some may not, because you don't know what oils they used and how your body operates. And nobody knows and loves their child as much as a parent does. And as I said, God has equipped us to bring up and nurture our children, because children were given to parents as a gift and to bring up into fullness. And so what is homeschooling? And homeschooling is a trusted method of bringing up children and equipping them with knowledge and character that will be useful for them as they get into the world to serve in their various stations that they are engaged in. Now, when my husband and I chose to homeschool our children, at first it was just one, and then the two others came later in successive years. We chose to homeschool them with our direct engagement with the children. And what did that look like? That looked like I stayed home and taught the children. I did not this was my full-time career. Where do you work? I work at home. What do you do? I homeschool. It wasn't by the way, it wasn't something I did on my free time. It's something that we did full-time. Now, today you will meet many other kind of variations of homeschooling, or maybe even better to call it home education, because we are not really bringing the school home. The focus is education. The focus is not, let me take what they do at school and bring it home, because that's a whole different flavor. We are educating the children. And today you will find that there are many other families who are kind of carrying out this differently and still would use the same term. And so you'll see families will bring in tutors to teach their children one-on-one at home. Others, and that kind of still comes very close to parent directing, because the tutor is under the direct guidance and oversight of the parent becomes the director of the school. And often when this happens, and what we like to encourage is, even when you bring in the tutor, do not be hands off. This is your child. And so work very closely with the tutor. Work also with your children. Take a few things that you would like to be the one teaching these children. And so you are partnering. The tutor is coming to partner with you to support your vision that you have for your children. And so, take a few subjects, teach a few subjects, take the children out, let them engage in life and society out there as you go to work, as you go to the market, as you visit your friends. And that actually makes for that what we are calling holistic education. Holistic education is not what we do when we are seated at a desk, is what it includes. That is a good foundation, but includes how then we take these things and we apply them out there. And all those ought to happen at the same time. We don't need to wait till a child is 18 to go out into the world. Just as we live life every day, if you think of your life at home with your child, we don't just sit and say, no, we are learning. When we are 18, we will go out and visit auntie, we will go out shopping. No, the life at home when we engage our children in all our family affairs is the richness we are able to bring into homeschooling. You create a structure around it, but neither do you lock your children into just the curriculum, as it were. But we find avenues to express ourselves outside of the four walls of our houses and our school rooms. And so, so there are those who will bring tutors into their homes and work together with the tutors to teach the children. Then there are others who are taking their children from school and putting them in a tutoring center. Now, I really don't, in my definition, I don't call that homeschooling because that's just another small school, but it depends on your level of engagement. I think parents can come together and make a learning community, but still with the parents' close engagement and oversight and authority on what goes on there. Who are we hiring as the teachers? What are the values that they're bringing in? Now, you may have had it said, a child is not above their teacher, but when they are fully grown, they will be like their teacher. And so whom we lend our children to teach is also very important. And that's why I say, in a tutoring center, you may be still very hands-off, very out of control, and that is not the kind of homeschooling I'm talking about. That's a whole different format of education for which I would not have experience or insight to call that homeschooling. So I'm talking about the parent working with a child at home or forming a learning community, having oversight of a tutor, coming together with parents of like mind, and having this small group of children that we are educating. Why is homeschooling important at this time? We understand that we have already mentioned the safety and security of the children. I think it's really a shame that we're coming to a time in society, in Kenya, and maybe in some places we are seeing this in other countries, where children cannot be out safely on their own. I'm very happy when I'm able to, when I walk around or, you're around out and about, like I think 2 days ago, going through Limuru and seeing 4 little kids walking, that was Friday evening, walking back home from school. And I thought, oh, that's really precious. That's what we would like to see in our society, that children are safe to walk home. But we are hearing all these alerts. Don't let your child out alone. I remember once, just about 3 or 4 years ago, some friends had come from the US and they are Americans. And, we walked near the market and they were shocked. They said, gosh, look at all these children going to school. It was like 7, 8 o'clock. And they said, how is this possible that you can have so many children walking on their own going to school? And, of course, we know that in some of those societies, there has to be such great oversight. And they said there's no way you would see a child in their community walking without an adult holding their hand, and you would even be arrested for child neglect if your child was found outside like that. And I see that, unfortunately, sadly coming to our place. But I also speak from a position of saying we are not defeated. we can turn the tide, we can shape the culture, we can make the culture what we want it to be. If we start working from the foundations up for a prosperous and, beautiful country, that the country we have enjoyed, we can have more on that. We shouldn't sit here and think, look what's happening and what a shame. Wherever country we are, whatever situations we are seeing, we ought to come back and say, okay, let's re-strategize. How can we now face this? And I'm bringing homeschooling as one of those ways to re-strategize. So children, especially when we think of the older children, they have faced various traumas. Those who have been in those schools, those who have been molested in the schools, there's a lot of that happening in the boarding schools. We don't even hear of it because our children are not able to come back and tell us. Because when a parent is told this and this is happening in school, and the poor parent has spent all their money to put that child in school, they'll just tell the child, "We vumilia, carry on, hold on fast, work hard to finish." And the child feels, I can't let down my parent, or my parent will never do anything even if I tell them. And sometimes it's just the trauma that you've gone through and you can't even speak it out. But children have gone through, not all schools, not all children, but we know that this is happening in our various societies. And so even as we think about that, how do we address children who are going through various traumas? Sometimes it's not molestation. Sometimes it's children with special needs, children who are not fitting into the regular classroom. Homeschooling is one way to bring them back home where they are loved, they're cared for, they're nurtured, and they will be taught progressively, gently, according to what they are able to receive at that time. If a child has faced severe trauma, there is no rush for them to do the lesson they missed last week. There is time for them to pull away from that, heal, recover. That is also part of life. And life education is upbringing of the child. It is nurturing and helping that child grow to be strong and healthy. And homeschooling allows us to be able to understand what is happening around us, what has happened to this child. Do we need to take time off for them to recover? What has happened in our family? We've just lost somebody. Do we need to take time for them to recover and then move on? And homeschooling allows for that. The other thing is that, of course, those who had thought boarding school is what would help them, I would like to invite you, you may be feeling stuck and thinking, what do we do now? I can't take my child to boarding. I don't know what to do. The day schools are far away, or, the learning is not good. I would invite you to consider homeschooling. When we homeschool our children, we are thinking of individualized, careful attention to the children. We understand and we see the gaps in their learning, in their character, in their physical formation, in their social skills. We see those gaps early and we address them. And also not only addressing the gaps, but we lay out the curriculum so that it is helping them grow in each of these areas. And we seek to keep these children inspired and loving to learn, to make this learning relevant for them, interactive, that they see themselves within the lesson. It's not just Paul at the back who knows all the answers in maths. No. Paul at the back who knows all the answers in maths is not here. Today I'm with you, Peter, and we're learning this very difficult concept in mathematics. And you can learn, you can understand it. And I am not in a hurry. I will take the time needed for you to understand this concept. We will not be rushed by the curriculum. We will not be rushed by those who are ahead of us. We will move to ensure that you have learned, and then we move on. And we seek to build the thinking and reasoning of the child so that they're able to think and reason and not just call out facts. And we train them and equip them with morals and values. We talked about arming them for battle. And we look at their talents. Somebody mentioned talents here. We are seeking to see that, what is it that has been deposited in you? What makes you Helen? What makes you Daniel? What makes you Zena? Who is June? How do I discover who that person is? That's a curiosity with which we come into this and seek to see that wonderful gift and talent and individuality in this child and bring it out. And then giving them the relevant exposure at the right time into the various skills and opportunities out there in the world. And all this done in an environment of love and care. And we don't want also just to say a little bit about, the young children, because we see that children are going into school earlier and earlier. And this in itself, sometimes we don't realize it. And I know even as I speak these things, a lot of things that have gone wrong have been done from a heart of love and care. Parents love and care for their children, and they're seeking the best for them. But even in this environment and love and care, we have made some mistakes unconsciously. For example, you might see, oh my goodness, my child is 2. They need to know English. They need to know how to interact with other children. I need to take them into school, or maybe even at 1.5. And this child is ejected out of a loving and caring environment, put into another environment, which is not necessarily hostile in the face of it, because we have very nice, loving and caring environments in the school kind of setup. But is this child emotionally ready for that? And what is this communicating to the child when they're removed from the safety of their home? And we know children thrive where there is safety, where there is confidence that I'll be okay at home. Mom and dad are okay. My siblings are near me, or they're fine where they are. But this child is very young. They cannot conceptualize and internalize things that are so abstract to them. And there's a wonderful documentary that has been done, and I will share the link with you, John, Peter Paul, to share with the group, of a clinical psychologist who has looked at the rising cases of ADHD in community. She's from Australia. And, looking at the brain development and seeing that the flight and fight impulse and reaction is ignited too early in these children, and they're not able to handle that process. And that's only because a loving parent removed them from home and took them to a center where there were strangers, other children, other adults who may have loved them, but the child is not ready for that separation. The child still needs the nurturing care of the parent. And so, those kind of things then call us to reconsider what is it we're looking for, and how can we bring this closer to that loving and caring environment of the society. And so, just in closing, I would like to say that, in this invitation for homeschooling, it may seem big, it may seem, like, gosh, what do we mean? How do I teach my children? But to say that there's a lot of support around, and I will put my email address here. I may not always be the one giving support, but there are many others around, but I'll be able to point you to the right people and also support where I am able to, because there is a lot of support in just helping you understand, how do I deliver this curriculum? For older students, we see that we can equip them with a self-government, self-discipline, and they grow into that they then are able to even take these courses and teach themselves with the support and oversight of and mentorship of an adult, and successfully complete their high school studies. We've seen many be able to do that. And in saying this, I'm thinking of those even who may have had to come out of school or need to get out of that school situation for various reasons. And mom and dad are busy out working. What do? Do we bring a tutor at this time? Sometimes that's also very expensive. But these children who are able to, can be equipped to be able to learn by themselves and get the oversight that they need to complete their high school studies. I think that I would call on the Ministry of Education to just have a lot more parental engagement in the schools and not shut out parents from the schools, but welcome them. And parents, I would say, this is your right. These are your children. Don't allow schools to lock off and say, once your child is here, the next time you'll see them is half term. Why? Why is it that I can go to a parents' meeting in school and not have access to my child? Why? Why am I seen as the biggest enemy to my child? So, but 3 practical recommendations. Number 1, consider home education for your child as a good option for the thriving of your child. Number 2, consider forming a learning community. You may not see yourself as an educator or as one able to teach your children. And this is what I see as a very successful model of home education in Kenya, with all our various realities, and perhaps in other countries that we're coming from, have little learning communities, people of like mind. We can bring our children together and we can share. That one teaches history, that one teaches science, that one teaches maths. Let's get a tutor for geography or for music, and let's make these learning communities. And thirdly was about the self-driven schooling for older children. And even fourthly, consider a hybrid model. And this, I think, working closely with your schools, especially where there's openness, more so in private schools, you can have a hybrid model. Children coming to school in some time and learning from home in other times. It creates such a great self-discipline too. It's amazing. The children who have learned to take responsibility of their education, they're not waiting for Peter to answer the questions. They know that this is me, it's me learning. We see that inevitably happening with all our homeschool children, just taking great responsibility for their education. And so seeking with the school to see, can we have a hybrid model? Can they come to school sometimes and, let's have a week or two where they're learning at home, then come back, just throwing that out there, the realities of your school, but to see that let's not see these systems as fixed and as if we're imprisoned and locked in. There's a lot of options out there, and home education is one of the very successful and trusted ways that we can educate our children. Thank you very much. I will stop there. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yes, Lady Noel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that enlightening conversation. We really appreciate you. So I call upon Dr. Melvin Lima, who's going to give the vote of thanks.
Hi, Lady
Dr.
Noel.
Melvin. Hi.
Oh, right. On behalf of PowerMonday, I'd like to thank the audience for coming here today. And I'd also want to thank the organizers of PowerMonday, in particular, Lady Noel, Otieno Paul Peter, Odhiambo Lale, and Antonia Mutunga, and others behind the scene for putting this show together every week after week, except on public holidays. So thank you very much. I want to thank the audience for sparing their valuable time to listen to this very topical subject of education, and in particular the space, the place of homeschooling in educating our children, in the values and in the life skills that they need to function properly in this modern world. Finally, I want to thank Liz Gitonga for explaining to us so passionately the journey that children must take in being educated and all the options that are available to them. My take home, actually my major take home, was this thing about getting parents to organize groups. I think you call them learning groups or study groups, where we can bring our children together and decide that we want them to be tutored in a particular subject, maybe geography or history, because I must comment that history has really been watered down in the CBE system of education. So people don't know the history of this country. Forget about other countries, because they're not being taught. So we as concerned parents can come together and decide we can teach history, we can teach geography, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much, Liz, for breaking it down for us. We are leaving here more enlightened. And I think you also said something about a hybrid model. So whether your child is going to a private school or a public school, we can have a hybrid model. I can explain that there is a teacher, a mathematics teacher in junior secondary, who is so supportive, because he uses technology. He uses WhatsApp to communicate with the children, and during the holidays he can have remedial classes, and this is what we want most of our teachers to do. If I might add, Liz, many teachers in public schools are not employed by TSC. They're employed by the board of management. They are being underpaid, and so they are not motivated to teach as well as they should. But as you say, homeschooling is one option available even to these teachers employed by boards of management across the country. So I think I've rambled on quite a bit, Lady Noel, but it's because education is something I'm also rather passionate about. And we are pleased that we have Otieno Paul Peter, who's actually now pursuing is it a PhD in something or the other? So we're in good company. Thank you, Liz, once again. Okay, over to you, Lady Noel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Melvin. I think I'm going to call upon Antonia to give us any updates from the admin. Or do we, first of all, just close, because I understand our speaker was supposed to write somewhere. So we just finish with everything and then Antonia will take over. What do you think?
I don't know. I want, probably she's even dropped. She was to pick up another class from 8. But just to mention from her previous talk, I've seen somebody asking about where it's really worked. Apparently, this is something that has worked even in Kenya for many years. Like she said, over 25 years. They've done it. She picked it from the US, I think. And in the US, I've seen different families run the same thing, from the Asian communities to different other communities. They just come together and they form what they call learning communities, and people learn. I've actually loved that concept of hybrid. I was thinking about the same yesterday, that why can't we be having a hybrid? Because why are children banning school? They are not allowed to go home. And I was wondering, I was asking my daughter, why are children not allowed to go home? If I go to the office and I say I want to go home, why should I be stopped from going home? I can't understand that. And I was thinking, maybe they need to be having some 2 weeks learning in school, 2 weeks learning remotely, just like other institutions of learning like universities. So there are different things, and I came to realize that even in Kenya there are very many communities that are talking about homeschooling. When CBC started, there was some hiccup into how things would shape up, because there were still no direct policies. But it's been working, and some of them have been able to integrate very well to the higher learning institutions and finished universities. So it's something that has worked. Say something about that homeschooling children register. They just register, just like there is national exam, people can register as private candidates. That is if they take the usual curriculum, but there are different other curricula that they can pick. And there is the one for the international ones that they can pick, and they just register for exams, and they are able to pass. Yes, so there are different curricula. There, even in the Catholic Church, I think there is a curriculum for homeschooling that guides people, and different other entities. There are international curricula that people can use, and they are recognized. Yeah. Good. Antonia, you can come in and make announcements. We have great respect for Liz Gitonga in homeschooling community. She is a hub of wisdom in all things. And she's actually shared her contact for any personal questions and consultations. Thank you for presentation. We need part 2 of this. Yes. Antonia, are you there? Seems she's dropped. And we have an upcoming. Oh, Liz is here. Liz, are you able to say something? Oh, no, no, that is Patricia. Okay, Liz. Okay, Liz is there. Thank you all for the opportunity to talk about home education. Feel free to reach out. God bless you. Yeah, we have an upcoming. The contacts are shared up there. I can post them again. We have an upcoming dinner coming on the 30th of October, and we look forward to meeting all of you, interact, share, and learn from each other. And you are encouraged to put in your name in the WhatsApp group in the list, or just fill in the form in the website, and we'll be able to follow up. Otherwise, uh, unless somebody else has something to comment on, Lady Noel, there's